For this follow along, we'll be going to use the same file that we made in the previous one, which I saved as a block file over here. If you did not save it or you do not have that file, I will upload this one to the Now Learning Room and you can download and import it. So let's actually see how to share files in another way, which is basically the extension of Fusion 360. So if you actually want to save the file on your PC instead of on the cloud and then share it with someone, I don't know, maybe using email, or for this example, I will be needing to share it with you on Now Learning Room. I will go to File, then I will go to Export, and I can save the F3D file, call it block, let's call it practice. Yeah, and I'm going to save it in documents, share files. I mean, you save it wherever, and let's export that. Okay. So once I've done that, you can see that it is a physical file on my personal PC so that you can have a local copy of your files. You don't really have to keep them because Autodesk server is really good in terms of saving your files. But if you by any chance have to share it via email and you cannot share the link using Fusion 360, you can save, there is a way to save it to the local drive. This is the file that I'll be uploading to the Now Learning Room. And once you've downloaded this file, let me show you how to quickly put it into Fusion 360. So for now, just assume that you don't have this block file and you have downloaded the block underscore practice file. So you click on upload, you can drag and drop the file, or you can select the file from your PC. So let's just drag and drop the file. And very quickly, we can see that we have the file that for your case, you will be downloading from the Now Learning Room if you haven't saved it. So I'll close this one and then open the block practice that we've just uploaded to the Fusion. Okay, so today we are going to see some modify commands. So if we have made a CAD model, how to modify it. So usually in reality, whenever you manufacture something, you don't really have these sharp edges. First of all, they're dangerous. Secondly, it's not so pleasing to hold it in hand. So ergonomically, it's better if you have curved edges, and you can include all those, and that's what we are going to see today. So first thing, what we will do today is see how to fillet or chamfer some of the edges. So these are some engineering terms that you will come across, specifically in design. And you can quickly go to the modify option and use fillet. We also saw fillet during the sketching practice, but we have fillet in 3D as well. So as soon as you click fillet, it gives you this dialog box where you actually can do fillet, rule fillet, round fillet, and you can explore all of them. You can do the radius type changing, but the important thing here is to select what you want to fillet, right? So usually I would suggest to use edges because that's the easiest to work with. There is a corner type as well, which I'll show you, but let's just apply fillet on this edge. So as soon as I select the edge, it asks me the radius of the fillet. Basically, it is a curved edge that we want to give, and it's asking me what should be the radius of that curvature. So if I give like 2 mm, you can see that that sharp edge has now become a nice and smooth edge, right? We can increase it. We can see that it keeps becoming smoother. So let's do OK and save it like that. Or if you want to keep all the fillets in your file, if you're doing all the fillets together in one command rather than having multiple fillets, you can do add a selection set and you can add more edges to it. So we can do 5 mm to the top edge and let's say, I don't know, 10 mm to the bottom edge, right? And if we rotate and see, we can see that it is a nice smooth curve that we have made. Let's reduce it to maybe 8. Okay, now what I want to show you is the corner. So again, I'll go to the fillet command. I could have done it in the same one, but what you can see is that if I do the command again, it comes as a separate component in the design history. Now I will select the 3 edges, and we would like to do it at this corner, let's say by 5 mm. So if it's a rolling ball, your corner becomes a part of a sphere actually, but you can change it to make it a setback, and setback looks a little bit more pleasing. I just wanted to show you that there are both options. Right. Okay. Another quick trick, let's say something that will make you faster at designing that I can tell you is if you want to repeat a command, for example, I did fillet and I want to do fillet again, rather than going to modify and clicking on fillet, or for that matter, even clicking the shortcut F again, I can use my commands on the right click menu. So Fusion has some commands on the right click. So if you press your right click button and drag, you can see a very small dial near my cursor. You can see there are some commands, but the important thing over here is the 12 o'clock one. So if, for example, you right click and just do up. So basically you can practice it a couple of times, but what I want you to do is right click and drag up. You should be able to repeat any command. And it's not just for fillet, you can do it for anything, essentially, even in the sketch mode. So let's try and fillet this edge as well. Okay, so we've tried fillet. Let's try and do some chamfers now. So let's make this edge chamfered, or maybe the outer edge. Let's do these edges as chamfered. So chamfer is another way of smoothing the edges, but it cuts it flat rather than giving it a nice round edge. And for that, it's pretty much the same. You just select the edge that you want to work with. Let's select these edges. Let's give a value of 5 mm. If 5 is too much, we can maybe give 2. And you can see that all the edges have become nice and chamfered. Okay, so we've tried fillet and chamfering. What we can try now, and that is something that you are going to use quite a bit if you are working with nuts and bolts and integrating some joineries in your design. You will be making patterns. Okay, so what a pattern is essentially any feature that you create, but you want to create multiple of those. So for that, what we can do is, you remember we made an axis for this, right? So let's hide the plane, but let's keep the axis as it is. We'll try to make some holes around on this surface around this axis, okay? But if you want to make, let's say, 8 holes, it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to make 8 circles and then extrude all of them. We can just make one of them, and then we can make a circular pattern around it, okay? So let's use the hole command that we saw, H for hole, right? It's quite big. So let's make the length 20 all the way through. The diameter is 5. Yeah, 5 looks fine. And now the thing is to place it correctly. Where do you want to place it, right? So right now you can drag it anywhere, which is fine. Okay, so let's keep it here for now. It's fine for the purposes of just seeing how the pattern command works. We'll go to pattern next. So it's in create pattern, and there are different kinds of patterns that we can make. So what I want to show you is not just that we can make a pattern of something that we have created in terms of a solid body, but we can also make a pattern of a feature, for example, a hole in this case. So I'll select circular pattern. It's asking me to select a body, and obviously our hole is not a body, but you can select something called a feature from here, and that will let you select the specific hole. Okay, you can also select features from your feature tree because all of them are features, right? So let's select this hole. Next, it wants you to select an axis. So we'll select this axis that we created, and then it will create a default number, which is 3 holes around our circle. And you can see that it gives you a nice preview as well to see where it goes. So let's create 8 of them. And there's another thing that I quickly want to show you is suppress. So for example, out of the 8 holes that you're creating, you only want let's say 6 of them, and you don't want any holes on this side. So you can make 8 holes and then suppress 2 of them, which basically means neglect them or ignore them, and then click OK. And it should show you just those 6 holes. So if I bring them back, what you can do is that you can distribute those 8 holes, not just all the way around the circumference of the circle, but actually partially. So you can just spread 8 of them for 180 degrees around that path, or even 90 degrees, which will be very close in this case, which you wouldn't want to do, quarter of the circle length as well. So let's keep it 360 for now, which is the full circle. And let's suppress, let's say, 2 of them. Okay. And if I click OK, you can see I've got some nice holes. So that is your pattern. We can see that some of them are actually going through the other features that we had, but that shows you the whole profile of the hole as well. So that's really nice. So we've done fillets, we've done patterns. Next thing that we want to try and practice today is making some nice revolves. Okay. So what if I want to make a nice vase on top of this? So what I want now is a plane that passes through the center of this uh, cuboid and bisects it. So we know that we can use the midplane command, or we can use plane through the axis command. So let's just use the midplane for now. Yeah, so we've got a nice midplane. Let's start a sketch on this, and let's project the axis that we had. Okay, what we can do now is hide everything else just to make it easier. And let's project one more line, which will be the base. Okay, let's hide everything now and complete this center line, which we projected. So we can use spline command. So let's start here and just making it randomly. You can spend as much time as you want to make it beautiful. So this is the spline command that we saw. One thing we didn't see at that time is that we can manipulate each of these points after drawing it. So for example, if you want this to be at a more angle, you can control this. You can change the tangency, the magnitude of the tangency, and you can do it for every point actually. So you can either modify it later, or you can remake it by changing the control points. Okay. I'm not particularly aiming for any specific shape right now, but I just wanted to show you that. Okay, so let's offset this because we want it to be a little bit thick. We just don't want it as a surface. And as soon as we offset, we can see that it has created a nice surface at 1 mm inside. Let's do OK. Let's try and close this, the bottom of the vase. So I'm just making a random shape essentially to show you the revolve command. And we can see that it's not a closed curve or a closed sketch. So let's close it like this. Okay, and maybe we can give a tiny fillet. Maybe 5 mm. To make another fillet at the bottom, I'll have to create another line because I can't really modify the projection. Let's do that as well. Make that 5 as well. So you can see that it looks weird there. So I'll maybe modify this a little bit. It doesn't really matter, to be honest. Okay, this looks fine and should work for what we are trying to achieve. Okay, so once we have something like this, or essentially anything, for that matter, let me make just a square here as well, so that you can see that it's not necessarily that I'm trying to make a vase. I just want to show you that how the revolve command works. Okay, so now we've got a shape for the vase and also a square. So I want you to either click on Finish Sketch or directly go to Solid and then click on Revolve. Okay, and it's very simple. You just need to select the profile that you want to revolve and the axis that you want to revolve about. Okay, so I've selected the vase. Now I'll turn the solids on so that we can actually see when it's created. And then I need to select the axis I want to revolve it around. And voila, in front of us is a very nice looking vase sitting on that cuboid that we made using a very simple revolve command. Again, we can do it for partial. If we don't want it for the full 360, I can make it a partial vase, okay, which is open from one end. I don't know why would you want to do that for a vase specifically, but maybe in some other designs that you're making, this might come in handy. Okay, just to show you that it doesn't necessarily have to touch the axis, we need to turn the sketch back on and let's use the revolve command again. So I've selected the square this time as a profile and I'll select the axis. And you can see that even though it was at certain distance, what the revolve command just does is that use that profile, use that axis and revolves it around and makes a 3D out of it. Okay, so if you have been able to follow along, really nice. You've learned some advanced commands today, specifically the patterns, fillets and chamfers, and also the revolve command.